Hello everyone, this is Tamer Radi and I'm very pleased to be with you to start our first lesson in Cinema 4D. Okay, today we are going to talk about the interface of the software. It's very simple. Maybe at the first look you will see that the interface is very crowded. You have a lot of toolbars and icons everywhere, plus menus. But really it's very simple. We will take each part of this and we will talk about it, and by time you will find that it's very simple. At first we have the main bar at the top of the screen, which hold the name of Cinema 4D and the version. Used version here is R26 107. Beneath it we have the project name, Untitled 2. This star means that you didn't save the project yet. You may close the project or create a new one. And here we have the undo and redo icons. On the other side we have different names here for different layouts. The active one here is the standard. I could switch to model or sculpt, UV edit, and so on. If you want to go back to the standard, just click it. For the layout, you could reach it from window, customization, and here we have the layouts. Here are the different layouts. Even you could create your own layout as this one here. Between brackets we have the name user, which means this is a custom one. You could save any layout to a custom one and even load it at any time. If you want to make the default one, for example, to be UV edit interface or layout, just go to window, customization, and click save as startup layout. So next time you open Cinema 4D, the default layout will be UV edit instead of the standard. Okay, right now I'm going back to switch to standard layout. If you are using old version of Cinema 4D and used to use its interface and feel strange with the new interface, just go here to this switch. By clicking the switch and clicking standard again, you are going back to the old interface of Cinema 4D for old versions. If you want to switch to the new interface, just click back the switch and again click standard. Here is the new interface. Next thing we have the menus. Here we have a lot of menus. The first one is file. You could create a new project or open a project, or to merge two projects to each other, or to close project, or to save project, or to save incremental, which means saving a copy of your work. Or even you could make export for the project or the scene. We will talk about this later in other lessons. Next one is edit. As usual for all software, you have undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, delete, and project settings, which is very important. Many times we could use it. And also preferences. Sometimes we may use it. It controls the default of the software as a whole. The next menu is create. Create, from its name, it will allow you to create a new items, starting from null, splines, mesh, generators, deformers, fields, environments, camera, light, and so on. All these commands are existing here. Here are the splines, the mesh objects, generators, deformers, and here the environment, for example, sky floor environment. Look here, create environment, sky floor environment, and so on. Camera, light, here are the camera, light options, and so on. You may notice right now that any icon with a small triangle at the most bottom right corner means that this icon holds a sub-icon. You could open the sub-menu or sub-icons by just clicking and hold the icon itself. And here is the sub-menu. That's it. It applies for all these icons with the small triangle, and even on the other side of the toolbar, like this one and this one. Okay, So the create menu is for creating new objects in the scene. The next one is moods. Moods is about how to deal with your object. For example, if I have a cube right here, I could go to mood, and instead of model, I will switch it to polygon. By this, I could control not the whole object, but just the face or the polygon, as we call it in Cinema 4D. The next option is edge. It is about selecting and dealing with the edges of the object. And the same is for points. By clicking points, I could control the points of the object itself, not the object as a whole. And even these three modes, in addition to model and texture, are existing here for these icons: points, edges, polygons or face, model and texture. As for now, you could notice that we have a repetition between icons and menus. Okay, let's continue. The next menu is select. It's talking about how to select the object or group of objects in the scene. For example, let's say if we have another object which is a sphere. I will make it much smaller. Don't worry, we will talk about this command in the next lesson. Okay, right now I have two objects here. What if I want to select both objects at the same time? I could go to select and select rectangular selection. Click and drag. By this, I'm surrounding only one object is selected. But if I'm going to surround both objects, so both of them are selected right now, and I could even move the two objects at the same time. Okay, if I want to neglect the sphere, or in other words, to delete it, just select it and press delete from keyboard. Let's go back to our rectangle, which is this one. Okay, go back to select menu. You could notice that the rectangular selection is selected and so on, the highlighted icon in blue. So if you see any icon highlighted in blue, it means it's active icon. And here you could reach it. That's it. If I want to go back to my first or default tool, which is move, it's located here. Just click it. So right now the selected tool is move tool. I could select any object by clicking it and dragging for moving. The next menu is tools. Tools is holding many commands. One of them is the move tool, rotate and scale. And for these three tools, they are located here: move, rotate and scale. And beneath it are the place and dynamic place, and they are existing here too, place and dynamic place. You could see the repetition of the icons. Okay, so don't be annoyed of the crowding interface. Okay, let's go back to the move tool and go back to our menu to continue. The next one is spline. Spline is about drawing lines in Cinema 4D. We have many tools for this, like the spline pen, sketch, spline arc tool, and so on. And also they are located here. You could reach it. Spline pen, sketch, and so on. Let's go back to our move and continue for the next menu, which is mesh. Mesh is about dealing with object in different way. We will explain it when describing and educating the modeling part. So ignore it right now. The next one is volume. The volume is about using a generator called volume builder and volume measure. I will give you a small example about this, but later on we will explain it in much more details. I'm going to say right now I have two objects and they are both separated. What if I want to blend both objects to each other in order to form one object instead of two objects? I will go to mesh, the volume, and select volume builder and also the volume measure. I'm going to select the two objects and make them children of volume builder, and the volume builder itself is a child of volume measure. Take a look. Right now, both objects are blended. And even I could control the operation itself as subtract. That's it. For sure, the quality is under control. I could control the quality of the final object. But right now, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to select the objects and click delete. Let's go back to our cube. Okay, what about the other menus? The next one is MoGraph. MoGraph is one of the very famous menus in Cinema 4D, and it represents one of the most important powers in Cinema 4D. It's about creating complicated objects, just as cloner, matrix, fracture, and so on. For example, let's say I have a cube, a small one, like this one. I could go to create a cloner of this. And by the way, I could reach the cloner and MoGraph menu also from here. From here. Here is the cloner matrix and so on. So I have a cloner right now. Take a look. It's creating something like a grid of objects. And that's it. Okay, we are not going to explain it right now, just we are going to mention the names, and later on we will describe everything. Okay, let's go back to our cube. Also, we have a character. Character menu is all about creating objects related to each other. Maybe to create a character, to create a wrench, or any objects related to each other by creating what is called joint tool, and also it will be composing of joint, skin, muscle, and so on. We will explain it also in a separate lesson. The next one is animate. It's all about creating animation and controlling the animation by the playback and so on. But to be honest with you, we are not going to use it too much, because this menu, sorry for the interruption, because the animate menu is also repeated here. You could see the play, go to next frame, previous frame, next keyframe, and go to start or to the end, and so on. So all commands are here. And sometimes we are going to memorize the shortcut for each of them. For example, play is F8, as written here in the black tooltip. The next menu is simulate, which is very strong menu, because we have forces, different types of forces, and also what's called emitter. Emitter is something like simulating terrain, for example. We use emitter for this. Look at this. That's it. For sure, we have a lot of details to talk about, but not right now. Okay, let's go to the emitter and press delete. And let's go back to our next menu. Tracker is about motion tracker. Render is about controlling the final output of your scene to make the render. And also, we may not use it a lot because we have here shortcuts for all the render, as render settings, render types, render view, render region, render or interactive region, and also picture viewer, which is here. And all of these options has a separate lessons, because we have a lot of details of it. One of the most important one is the edit render settings, with a lot of options to talk about. The next one to render is the object is the material manager. Material manager is controlling creating materials just for reflection, transparency, luminance, and so on. And also we have a lot of options to talk about in the future. But as objects, you could select the material and press delete to delete it, and close the menu or the window, the small window. Okay, after render we have extensions. It's about if you are going to install third-party or plugins, you will find it here. But some plugins has a separate menu, just like Corona. It's a render engine, and when you install it, you have it as a separate menu like this one. Last two menus is window and help. Window, for example, is about customization. We talked about this at the start of the lesson. Also, we have different commands here as asset browser, object manager, and all of these commands is to open a separate windows as it's labeled here. For example, object manager is in blue color icon, which means it's activated here. Yes, that's it, object manager. Beneath it is attribute manager. Go back to the window menu. Here is the attribute manager and its active window. Some windows are in tabs like this, or the layers, so you could switch between them. In the below, we have the animation part. The most important one is this timeline with numbers. It represents number of frames. And this box in blue represents which frame is active. If you are familiar with any animation software or program like Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, or even in the past Adobe Flash or Animate, they are all sharing the idea of using frames and keyframes. But don't worry if you don't have experience at animation or the keyframes and the timeline. Don't worry, because we will talk about it later on during lessons of animation. But just for now, just to know, this blue box represents which frame is active right now. But because we don't have any animation within our project, so it has no effect at all to navigate. Nothing happened because we have no animation. Right now we have just finished our first lesson about the interface. As you see, maybe it's crowded, but it's very simple to explain. Okay? Don't forget to practice what we have talked about, and see you during our next lesson to continue at the point we have stopped. And till that, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to send me any comment if you have any question, and I appreciate your likes. Okay, see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.